morning and welcome back to Home and Gift Virtual. Sharing retail expertise and entrepreneurial insight, join our next session as we explore what's in store for creative brands, retailers and consumers with personal anecdotes, sage advice and plenty of inspiration for challenging times. Please extend a warm welcome to award-winning broadcaster, coach and speaker Katie Hill and TV business and consumer expert Kate Hardcastle MBE. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Morning, Katie.
Good morning.
How are you? We have to introduce ourselves.
Yes, I know. Go on. Well, Kate and I know each other. Let's just start by saying that. So if you think that there's a bit of love between us, that's because there is. We go back a long way.
We do indeed. We do indeed. One of the finest, inspiring and motivating speakers, Katie, has always got something positive and energizing to say, which many of us need right now, and just has the most beautiful way of saying it that feels real, that's feeling energized, and I know has been a huge support to many businesses both here in the UK and international. So it's great to be doing this with you, Katie.
It's so exciting, and it's been, the most interesting time, because I thought genuinely that the bottom would fall out of coaching, because I thought people would suddenly go, I don't have money for that. And actually the absolute opposite has happened, and I have a wait list 10 miles long for coaching.
Oh my word, that's amazing.
I just think this time has been the biggest. I liken it to shaking the Etch-a-Sketch, and very much showing my age now. But I feel like it's been personally, and for many businesses like that, it's like everything we've known has been shaken. And actually, the positive to power out of that with is what elements of life before work for us, and do we want going forward? But we'll come to that anyway. But I love that I met you years ago. Kate was speaking at an event, and just championing businesses and working parents, and you just were so refreshing with your knowledge and business insights. And when I looked through your resume, as obviously I did when we left each other, I was like gobsmacked at everything you've done that you never talk about. Even now we'll be in meetings and I'm like, why does she never talk about all the amazing, she gets flown all over the world to consult on retail. So, and you'll have seen Kate obviously on about every single breakfast show that there is, talking about everything with lockdown. You must be exhausted.
There's a lot of early starts. There are absolutely a lot of early starts. So just basically my life, I think, is very simple. I have one raison d'etre for 20 years, which is I help businesses to become more customer focused. And like you, Katie, I wondered what might happen. But obviously we know that with customers being more savvy and more emotionally aware than ever because of this, there is so much work for all organisations to do. We consult within retail, travel, food, health and beauty, well-being, hobbies, travel and tourism, pretty much everything that's been touched or affected in some ways positively, in some ways challengingly. But the outcome and the opportunity out of all of this is that we've got to put customers at the heart, and that's simply my job. So it doesn't matter whether I'm explaining that on television or I'm doing it for businesses in real life. And we also do it for micro businesses through our give back scheme, which is Access for All. I love Access for All because even though obviously we're doing that from a philanthropic basis, it keeps me agile. There's nothing like trying to work a project through with a budget of zero to keep you nimble and top of your game. What I love about your Etch-a-Sketch, I actually pull back into something I talk about, and I think there's a real meeting of minds there, Katie. Actually, the word crisis translates in Japanese as a dangerous opportunity. And I think that's exactly what we've got right now. We have got a dangerous opportunity. The Etch-a-Sketch is moving. Everything feels unstable. But do you know, if you go back in the history books, which Katie, she's a glamorous, fantastic, motivational one. I'm her geek sidekick. You've seen those films, haven't you? I'm the one sat doing the maps and with my glasses on. Then I am going to go back in the history books and say, Katie is absolutely right on this. Out of some of our most challenging times, we have seen some of the most brilliant things born. And that's because we've become more creative and inventive.
And it's so interesting because early on in lockdown, I was so ready to hunker down. I was homeschooling. I felt like locking all the doors on the world, keeping my nest safe. And actually, I watched a video by the most amazing guy called Rob Moore. He's written some phenomenal books. And he did this video about how this is the moment, like seize the moment. And first of all, I thought he was drunk. I'm like, what are you talking about? 2 children homeschool. I've got 1,000 meals apparently to make every single day. I feel like I've been stuck in the kitchen. And actually, he was really key for me in making me realise, looking back at my life, and something that I do with clients, we often look at what you think of as the fail rubbish moments, and actually they were the incredible moments that pivoted you into something amazing. Because Brené Brown's another favourite of mine, and she talks a lot about vulnerability, and this feeling of vulnerability we try our whole lives to avoid. Human nature wants us in this state of homeostasis, which is very safe, no great highs, but equally, no very great lows. And actually, we often limit ourselves from stepping into the most incredible life because we are scared. And actually, this time has forced us into the most incredible vulnerability globally that we've ever felt. And so rather than feel the fear of that, it's flipping it and going, right, I'm already in the quagmire. My ship has left port. What is possible from here? And that for businesses is so key. And a lot of my clients have businesses, and pivoting through this time, which I know is a word you love, has been key, and getting back to what's important.
It is absolutely right, Katie. It's the agility, it's the ability to be nimble. And if you're a smaller business, now's the time to use your competitive advantage. We all know all the anecdotes about the turtle and the hare. We know all of them, but you've really got to work out, how do you use what you have got to your best advantage? We know with this crisis, a lot of the things that are going to come to fruition are how authentic you are as a business. How respectfully do you treat your customers and your team members? We've seen the kind of pantomime villains and heroes come through this already. So you've got to think, actually, I'm small, but I'm mighty. And if I have this at my heart, then this is something I've really got to propel. Meanwhile, if you're in a larger business that's going through a huge change management structuring, you've got to get everybody on board with that messaging. It's the time to getting the right people on the bus with you and going on that journey.
And I think as well, I'm massive on, you'd completely dropped out for me then, sorry, but I know what you said would have been amazing. But interestingly, I've got my You Do You t-shirt on today as a reminder for everybody to own their USP. Like, Simon Sinek, famous, he said, people don't buy, to stop looking at the competition, to own the space that is authentically yours on, social media, which was up 300% during lockdown. Incredible tool for businesses to use, and to show up as your authentic self. And, what I've done with clients is, with small businesses, is they've been looking at their business and actually really streamlining it and pivoting it into actually the most authentic business that they can have, which they wouldn't have done without this experience. And now they're absolutely flying. So it is using that massive shake-up, isn't it? And, it's interesting. Everyone has sat and looked at their bank account and gone, oh, because we've not been spending. And so now, if people want me to spend money, I'm looking for authentic small businesses to spend my money on. It's interesting how you suddenly look and you go, hang on, I spend £15 every Wednesday in Costa because we have art club. And I think people have done without, and we've been okay. So shouting about you as a business is so important, because you're the reason I'm going to buy from you. You're brilliant on social media, Kate. Your face is front and center of what you do, and your authenticity with your brand really shines through. And I think that's so important. It's not about the products you're selling, it's about you, because you're the reason I'm going to come to you. I could buy from anybody. Do you know what I mean? It's really...
I do.
Yeah.
And I'd love some more tips from you on social media, Katie, because I think that's something you really work with a lot of organisations on, and I think it's an area of fear for a lot of organisations. But I'm just going to recap, because I know we need to come out with some top tips from this. I think what we've heard so far from both of us is very much, you've got to use this opportunity or lose it. I think you've got to be nimble and agile, and I think you've got to be authentic. And just one thing before we go into social media, I wanted to touch on, because businesses small and large that are listening will be talking and thinking very much about Christmas. And I think because it's a key trading period, this is a word of warning, but a word of opportunity. You have to get the messaging around this Christmas right. It is going to be so essential for us as consumers to feel it's the right message to us. It's about not overselling. It's about understanding the emotion that will be attached to it. The consumer's
Yeah.
mindset will be, I've been 12 weeks without my family. I couldn't connect with people. I've missed them. We've missed holidays together. We've missed this party, this wedding. We're going to make Christmas count this time. But making Christmas count doesn't just mean we're going to spend loads. So you've got to get that messaging just absolutely in tune. And if you want to know how to do that, we've only got 20 minutes. We can't do it today. But it's always about starting outside in. That's always my number one tip. Outside in. Listen to what the consumers are saying. Evolve your messaging to suit. And I think that's a great time to sort of flip it into social media, isn't it, Katie? Because I think that message goes beyond Christmas. It's not just a message for Christmas, it's a message for life, right?
And it's about 100% about the emotion of it. I used to present a breakfast show on Heart, and whenever we do a lot of competitions, and my boss used to have this saying, which I'm sure is a well-known saying, but on air he used to tell us to sell the sizzle, not the sausage. So I want packet of sausages for you to win, not very enticing. But if you go on air and go, you wake up in the morning, you smell it coming up the stairs, and your Saturday just started in the best possible way, everybody knows what you're talking about. So it's how your product, how your company is going to make me feel. And I want to feel safe, and I want to feel looked after. And it's so true. It's so getting back to basics. And for a lot of people, I think it's about getting back to why they started in the first place. You know, what is your company? Why are you serving people? What is the good that you're bringing to the world with what you do? And social media is a massive way of getting that message out. It's really interesting. Interestingly, I'm quite big on social media, and I did a session with an amazing girl called Lisa May. She's got a thing called the Mentor Society, and I had a session with her at the start of lockdown, and she said to me, I love your feed, it's authentic, all of it, but at the time she said, I look at it and I don't know what you're doing now. I don't know that you're coaching, I don't know that you're speaking, I don't know that you're running corporate workshops. And so I've completely changed my social media so that when you open it up, the 9 pictures that appear hit you with my message, tell you what I'm doing now, tell you what I'm about, because nobody is going to click through and read all the writing on every post. It's just not going to happen. So make sure that when someone lands on your page and thinks, what is this company about? What are they selling? Who are they? Your 9 pictures that appear need to sell your story.
I think that's so true. We have major brand clients, some of the biggest in the world, who we have to work with under non-disclosure. So I have to tell this story sort of anecdotally, but we had an organization that was so reliant on what they thought the customer knew. And actually, when you dug into the research, it took a lot of finite detail to actually understand that, yes, some consumers were aware of it, but the loyal consumers that were going to be back there week in, week out, the new customers, the ones that needed the narrative, that wanted the explanation, they didn't get the story. They didn't get the messaging, because actually it was almost like waiting for a waltzer to jump on. You were thinking, when do I get my turn to get in here and understand what this is all about, and felt the disconnect. So it's really important that whilst you are doing that and you're explaining your story for your longer term fans or your longer term loyal customers, you've got to create a way for somebody new and fresh to go, okay, explain it to me like I know nothing. And I think simplicity there is key. Would you agree?
So true. And I think it's also about owning all of your message. Like, if your why as a small business is to put food on the table for your family, put your family on, like, I don't mean that you might not want their faces out there on social media. I tend not to put my kids on, but back of their heads when they're doing something with a post saying, this is my why. I wake up every day for these 2 human beings. Wow, I'm going to buy from you. Like, don't be ashamed as a parent. It's interesting. It's almost like we hide that element of us, or there's so much about us that we don't bring to the fore. And actually, this whole time has just shown us that bringing all of your authenticity and all of you is what's important. It's not about the facade. Nobody cares. It's about you and why I'm going to buy from you.
I think that's a really great point when we also think then about flexing your brand, because I think for me there's always a tipping point. It's really important to explain you why, and it's really important to have the agility to move your business and evolve it. But what we've sometimes seen in this crisis is that some businesses have changed so much that they're not recognizable from the original why, the original thought process. Now, that's okay. You can completely flip your business and make it something different. You're not beholden to anything, particularly if you're not a small business. But if you're a bigger business or a business that's got authenticity built into your brand anyway, take care with that change. Take care with those new products and services. Do they fit in with your brand messaging? Are they actually right and true for your customers today? Again, the simplest way is just to ask. Make it make sense. Show the train of thinking and show why you're doing something. An explanation can really help a customer come with you on that journey.
Yeah, amazing. And it is, holding your customer's hand through it, isn't it? Because we all feel unsettled right now. So I know for me as a consumer, if it looks like something is unrecognizable from what I knew, it makes me go, oh golly, no, that's not for me. So really think about, nurturing your client through that whole process.
And I think that's a good place to start with, actually writing it down, Katie. I know that people hear things like business plans and they get incredibly fearful. Even for some of the larger organizations we work with, we start with one piece of paper. It's a target diagram. It's available for free on the website. You can download it and use some tracing paper. I'm going back to Katie's Blue Peter days here. Overlap the tracing paper on there and then draw it. It's called the target diagram. And at the center of it all is a heart, and the heart is the customer and the vision. Those two need to be entwined. Once you've actually got that clarity of what your customer wants and how you're going to deliver it, you can build out in layers from that. But what that does, it keeps you rigid and centralized and keeps you focused. And that's incredibly important, particularly when you're moving quite quickly in these changing times.
And I also think something really important is momentum has been spectacularly hard to achieve in lockdown. Even personally, it's always really important that we feel like we're moving forward in life. And even tiny things like, we all had the mother of all blitzes at home, and we sorted out our attics, and our cupboards have never been more streamlined, and we were like, whoa, this is amazing, I never have time for this. And then there was that moment of realization of there's nowhere for it to go. Where are all these bags going to go? And I think now that things are starting to move forward, to feel like you're taking steps. And something I always do with clients is, talk about a limitless list rather than a to-do list, and actually having on your list for each day a couple of easily actionable items, because there's a thing called the progress principle. And as you do something and tick it off your list, it gives you the momentum, the forward momentum to do the other bits. We've all had days like that when you get up and you train and you do something early doors and you just keep going through the day. When I was at Heart, my alarm was 3:30 in the morning. I've never been more dynamic in my life, because I'd come off air at 10 and then maybe go and do some work in London and then come home and mow the lawn. I was like this Duracell bunny, and no one could ever believe the energy I had. But interestingly, rather than make me knackered, which I thought it would do, it energized me for the day because I was just achieving stuff. So getting the forward momentum now is possible, and it's just so important to feel like you're inching forward. Like in lockdown, for example, I've wanted to do a podcast forever, haven't had the time, and lockdown I was like, right, it's happening. I've been recording in my bedroom, we did the baby steps to put it online ourselves, and I've done it, and it's like, oh, okay, that was good, that's ticked off my list, what's next? I think it has given us time to move forward with things that maybe we hadn't thought we had the time for before.
It's time also, I think, to capitalise on your charge. Some of our organisations that are clients are a little bit smaller. There's opportunity for them there. And I think that's the time to actually put your big brave pants on and go for it, to use one of Casey's phrases. So I think if you see an opportunity, and I think if you see that actually you've got the goods and you've got the offer, don't expect to have the full list at 10 out of 10. There could be a couple of things that you still got to work on. But if you want to work with a major grocery client, if you want to see your product listed somewhere, if you think this is the time to branch out into a different sector, and you think you've got that authenticity, then do it. And don't do it with perfection. Perfection will never come. Come with a very clear offer. Come with the detail and the knowledge that there's actually a want, a desire, a need for it. But come with the impression that you're aware there's a couple of things to improve, but that you're going to do it. That actually it's in your mindset. And one of the phrases I like using is, training, delivery, movement, evolvement, it's eternal. It doesn't mean that we ever get to the finish line, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think done is better than perfect is something that I work on with clients, and it's something I work on with me, because a lot of women, men as well, but it's a very female thing from what I see, is we're grade A students. We want to be perfect with things, and that really limits us starting stuff. So I'm very ducks in a row. I think there's a book, is it called Ready, Fire, Aim or something like that? My go-to is ready, aim, fire. Wait a little bit longer, don't fire yet, actually, let's get a bit more ready. And by the time I'm ready to fire, it just doesn't happen. It's completely lost momentum. So I read Rob Moore has a book called Start Now, Get Perfect Later. And it's that whole thing. It's like starting my podcast, it's all loaded, ready for next week. And it's absolutely terrifying. And I want to have everything lined up and, before I hit go. But the podcast will come, and I've got 8 recorded, which is what you're meant to do, and then I'll record more as they come. You're obviously coming on one, but it's if you take the baby step forward, it's actually okay. You don't have to see the whole picture.
That's my diary book. I've obviously got no choice in that one. Of course, I'm really excited about coming on the podcast, Katie, but I think I'm just going to be typical mother hen here and just put a couple of ice cubes on it as well. You're going to get passionate about whatever it is you're working on. You've got to. That's how we're going to get through this. You've got to have the drive and energy that gets us up. Just like Katie talked about, getting up at 3 o'clock in heart. I always have a saying. I use it with everyone, big business to tiny micro business. You know that last email that you sent? It's the one after that that's going to make the difference. And I'm not suggesting for 1 second you do an all-nighter, but that was me. That's how I had to make that mindset. My competition sent that email. I need to send the one after, but make sure it's clear. Keep it really simple. Sometimes when passion hits in, we expect everyone to be down the line with us. They know the journey with us because they've lived it with us. They haven't. They're starting from scratch. So although it is absolutely right, there's no such thing as perfect, do it now. Make sure at least there's enough to make sense. Make it clear. And also, the big thing that works for me is find out what the benefit is to them, not you. Don't sell with, I've done this, I've been working on this, I'm an expert at this, I'm great at this. Start with, I know what you need, and this is how I'm going to help you deliver it.
Amazing. And actually blow your own trumpet. And equally, I think, which is very key and something that I know from social media, make sure you research and invest in the people you're approaching. So if there's a company you want to reach out to, know everything about that company, sound enthusiastic about it. Don't make it sound like a blanket message that you're sending everyone, because I can't begin to tell you how many direct messages I get on social media from people saying, I'd love you to promote my business. I'm a small startup. Can you shout about me? Now, whilst I would love to shout about everyone that approaches me, often I'll click through. They don't even follow me on social media, and they've never engaged on any of my posts. So don't just throw it all out there. Really think about who you're targeting and invest the time in that person, in that company before you approach, because they'll know. And it's about being authentic.
So one of the things I absolutely do with my team, which fits into that, Katie, and you're so right in everything you've just said, is I use the question why, probably too much, and to the point they absolutely love. Because I ask why, then why again, then why again, then why again. I sound like my 4-year-old twins. But my 4-year-old twins teach me every day. And the reason is they're inquisitive, and they're inquisitive because they still haven't fully understood my explanation. It might make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to them. So, we've got to actually make sure we've got that why. And just because isn't okay, just like it isn't okay for the twins. So you've really got to make sure you've thought right down that path. Why? And I think sometimes if the answer is because I need to make money, because I need to feed my family, that's okay too. But you've got to always flip it round. Outside in is essential. And I think one of my learnings from helping support over 1,000 micro businesses now is sometimes the passion overtakes and we do become a little bit clouded in our own thinking. So, definitely tune into those podcasts with Katie, because I know those messages are going to be coming through all of the time.
It's interesting as well, because I think, at the start of lockdown, I was like, I'd watched this thing about using the moment. And when I look back on my own life, there's so much terrible moments have pivoted into the most incredible moments that I've had in life. So I definitely am a believer in that. But when I heard the message of, what can you do in lockdown? I excitedly was like, right, I'm doing a podcast. I'm starting my online course. I'm blah, blah, blah. And it was amazing. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then there was actually about a week when I did absolutely nothing because I was completely overwhelmed at how much I wanted to achieve. And I'd inch forward on each thing, but not really be making progress on any one thing. And so then I was like, right, it's podcast I'm going to start with. We're doing that. And then the online course can happen. And that's what I've done. And I think, it's great to have this big umbrella idea of what your company is, but make sure the thing you're trying to achieve is one thing within that. Otherwise, you'll achieve nothing.
That's absolutely right. Okay, so I could sit and talk to you all day, but I know we're not allowed to right now. If I just start trying to...
Oh, we're over already. You're so naughty.
I know, it's typical. If I try and wrap this up, will you listen in and just see if you can fill in the gaps for me? So I think what we've talked about today is we've talked about navigating the crisis, this dangerous opportunity, this Etch-a-Sketch moment, and how you've got to really run with it. How social media is really important, but as we've mentioned all the way through, it's about being authentic, about being respectful, and for me, the outside-in thinking. We've talked about making sure it is a time to pivot, it's a time to flex, but don't go so far cartwheeling down the road that nobody understands what you're doing anymore. And I think we've talked about digital retail and how important it is to be human on there too. Have I missed anything, Katie?
No, apart from you do you. And, as I say with clients and when I do talks in business, that means all elements of you. Like, what are you? How can you lean into this vulnerability? And what part of you are you not bringing right now that you actually could? And it would make the difference.
I think instead of Beauty and the Beast, I'm going to go from motivator and the geek. That's everything from us.
I want to be the geek. Look, I've got these.
Oh, then you win that today. I'm going to have to start getting my flashy pants on to be motivating.
You're delicious. Thank you so much for watching, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Katie, too.
Just quickly, Kate, what is your social media and website?
Oh, great point. Yeah, I am at Kate Hardcastle on Twitter, and the business is Insight with Passion. You can find us on our social media channels, but you'll probably get most content from us on LinkedIn. Katie?
I'm Katie Hill across all social media. My podcast launches Wednesday 15th. Actually, it's launched already. My podcast is launched. It's called Limitless by Katie Hill, as is my company, which does coaches, workshops and speaking. I'd love to hear from you. You can email me through my website at katiehill.com.
And one final thing, huge day for independent business, the 30th of July, Into Business Live, a celebration of thousands of independent businesses for free. If you've got an independent business that wants a shout out from some amazing celebs, then please have a look at indiebusiness.live. Thanks, Katie.
So lovely seeing you. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.